Hello.
Welcome to the Stupide Podcast.
Number 13.
I believe so, yeah.
It's an unlucky number.
Or lucky, depending where you're from.
That's true. All right. So, another question. From
That's kind of the point.
Anonymous source. So, strong fit is really based on approaching weaknesses, fixing weaknesses, balancing out.
And balances. Yeah.
Basically finding balance in movement, sports, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you, last week we talked about approaching weaknesses, how to fix them, and how do you like to program for weaknesses?
Right, so that's an important conversation because if you look, the conjugate system we talked about, the linear progression is simple. It's like how do you get results on the bench, on the stuff, things like this. So that's one approach, very much objective based, is like don't care, like let's make the bench go up. I have a little bit of a different approach in the sense, like to me, in order for us to go up, we need to balance the arch always first, whatever arch that is, it needs to be balanced. And I have a pyramid I used back in the day where it was deficiency, imbalance, weakness, in the sense of there are steps like that toward, like a pyramid, the wider the pyramid, the higher it goes. So like we needed to establish a strong base in order to be able to move forward. That's the structural pyramid I talk about all the time. But if you look, like if the structure isn't strong, then eventually you create a glass ceiling. It's the same thing with imbalances and deficiencies and weaknesses. I just like divided deficiency first, imbalance, weakness, but doesn't matter. You can intervert. The terms don't matter. The idea is what matters.
The greater the structure, the higher the building.
Right, exactly. So what is undermining the structure the most, and then we start working from that. And so I'll use, and then how do I program based on that? So I'm going to program. Obviously, exercises are going to matter, and which exercise do I choose? I'm going to explain. But what matters first is the volume. Like let's say I have a muscle group that is challenging my structure. How do I make it better? Well, the first thing I'm going to look at it, honestly, is like how many times a week do I need to train it? It's two things I'm going to look at. How many times a week do I need to train it? And which exercise is the best for that, right? But we can't just say which exercise am I going to do or how many sets. It's also volume of training. Like because of bodybuilding, we look at it like, one muscle group, once a week or twice a week or whatever. On a muscle group that if you've been training for a while, right, and that just won't make progress, well, it turns out once or twice is just, by the time you go back, if you do once a week, by the time you go back to next week, the muscle has already forgotten what they had learned from that session. Right. So what I've honestly seen that works the best is the Arnold Schwarzenegger approach, which is do it every day. So the good news about that is you suck with that muscle. So that means you can't actually get that much neural output into it, and you're just gonna have to go hard at it for a while. And the good news is it won't tax you that much because you're not capable of generating
that much. Yeah.
Nah, not really. So I'll use myself as an example. My biceps do not grow. They just don't. And so I was like, well, there's a simple way. I'm going to do curl my back against the wall so I don't cheat with an easy curl. And then I'm going to do them every day. So I can't do 20 sets because that's, it would just take too long to recover. But so what I do is I do max weight for 10 reps, 7 reps, 4 reps. Why? Because I cover a little bit everything from a little bit more reps to a little bit less. The 4 reps is a lot of neural output. So what I'm trying to create is a neural output toward the bicep, and I'll make a podcast on neural output, but is to create that first, the muscle, the volume, to get to get the muscle fiber to break down a bit, and then toward the 4 reps to create the neural output toward that muscle. If I do it once a week, by the time I go back there, honestly, the neural output, like my body forgot what it was like. So I do it 5 days a week. I go against the wall, I do my 3 sets, and then I move on. But again, that set of 4 is not taxing enough that I feel it the next day. It's actually helping my shoulder a lot, by the way.
And in the programming, so if you want to program for a weakness, for example, your biceps, you do it every single day as a warm-up. Do you also include the weakness of the bicep in the training session itself?
Well, so first we're going to do like it's a deficiency. It's absolutely not working. How do I know? Because I've been trying to get biceps my whole life to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's just not working. Right. So what I was like, all right. So and they're not strong. I can't curl for shit. Right now I'm at 45 kilos or 50 kilos for like 5-6 reps. I can't curl for shit if you look how strong I am. And then I do weighted pull-ups, I do row pulls. You would think my biceps would be 4 times the size they are. They just don't respond. So every day, and then finally they're making progress, but it's minimum, but at least it's progress. So every day I do the curl. And again, like by the next day they recovered because they're not working that, they're not capable of doing that much work. So that allows me to put them 5 times a week. And so those are the weakest points. That and my hammies don't grow either. So they're strong, but they don't grow. So I approach them to keep them activated every day. So whether I'm going to do some banded leg curls, I'm going to do some lunges, or I'm going to do stuff like that. And so the bigger the weakness, so in that case deficiency, the more often I train them. Then I move to imbalances, left versus right. Then instead of 5 times a week, it's going to be 3-4 times. I mean, and then eventually weakness, which is something that responds but is a little bit behind, I'll do twice a week. And then on the other side, I'll work my strength once a week. So a lot of my programming is not based so much on an idea of linear progression, even though I look at it like that as well, but that's an extra layer. First, what I'm going to look at is how many times a week do I need to train that muscle. That will change the way I choose exercises. Because for example, my hammies are a problem. So that means I need to put lunges often. Or if I do squats, for example, the sumo is a good exercise for the hammies. The stiff leg is a great exercise for the hammies. But if I do quad work, it won't help my hammies as much as if I choose a sumo deadlift, for example. Or, a stiff leg versus a normal deadlift.
Skill and for example, something you need to get stronger, but then most beneficial for your weakness.
Right. So
right?
I have a very strong back. So that means that as long as I work it once a week, I'm cool. So for example, I'll do rows once a week, but I'll make sure I do rows. I also hit my hammies. Right. If I'm going to do deadlift of the floor, it's a lot of back work for me. So maybe I'll do it as a stiff leg of the floor instead of a pure deadlift. I'll deadlift once in a while, but most of the time I'm going to direct the work toward the hammies so that the number of times that I hit my hammies per week is greater. And so that's how I program really. So, okay, what do we need to hit first? Biceps and hammies. Okay, well, that's going to be 5 times a week then. So I'm going to do lunges 2-3 times a week. There's going to be a stiff leg in there, probably twice a week, the stiff leg. There might be some sumo, there might be so I will change the exercises because I need to hit the hammies first and often. So once I've done that, I know that by hitting the lunges, for example, I'm going to hit my glutes. Okay, cool. So how many times a week do I need to train my glutes? Are they a deficiency? No, they're not. Maybe an imbalance, probably between imbalance and weakness. So I can hit the glutes like 2-3 times. So I'm good with the lunges already. Whatever I put extra is just icing on the cake. All right, so lunges are there. I have to do stiff leg for the hammies. That's the only way they really get strong. All right, so that's in there, once or twice a week, depending. And then I start to establish a structure like that.
So if you would program for yourself with this idea, you would just have to really look at the weaknesses, how to approach them, how often, and
exactly
that 5-4-3 idea that you just mentioned, right?
After you can do a 5-3-1 like a Jim Wendler wave that is actually quite good. But the first thing I'm going to look at is what do I need to hit to choose the exercises, for example. So upper back and hammies are a weakness of mine. My hammy is a bigger weakness, my upper back, but my upper back is at least an imbalance, if not a weakness. If not a weakness, an imbalance. If not imbalance, a weakness. So, for example, doing good morning with a safety squat bar is great for the upper back, great for the hammies. That exercise should be in there at least once, if not twice. So now I got the lunges, I got the stiff leg, and I got the good mornings with a safety squat bar. All right, so I work my pulling stuff. Is that enough for my lumbar erectors? Is that enough? Okay, cool. Then I can put the squat in there if I want to hit the quads a bit more, and then that's going to decide a lot the type of exercise that I want. So for example, it happens that box squats with a band hits another weakness of mine, my low abs and lower back. That's also, I have a very strong mid back, but I have a weak lower back and low abs. It happens that the box squat with bands hit the low abs, hits my lower back, and also hits my hammy, especially on the left, very hard because it goes from unloaded to loaded so fast. So I like the bands more than the chains because it hits my hammies in the best way. So then I put the box squat in. And so after that, once I have all that list of exercise, it's more a matter of, okay, so who goes where, right? So that you can organize your day, because are you going to try in 4 or 5 times a week? That depends a little bit on your preferences, where you are and stuff like that. So once we have decided that, and then I have my carries to put in. So I'm going to put my carries at the end of the week, but then it's a very long, very hard session, or I'm going to spread them out. So that's how I look at it. After, it's personal preferences, right? And then all this from there will follow a 5-3-1 wave system, because that 3-week wave works really well. Usually when you do the same exercise the same way, by the 4th time you kind of lose the neural output. You're bored. You just can't generate the same intensity anymore. So for example, for good morning, that means I do normal good morning 3 times, and then I either rest, or usually I'm too stubborn to rest, but anyway, the session after that will be off of pins. So dead stop, good morning. And then it will hit, it's still a good morning, but it hits a little bit different. Then I can do another good morning, right, with bands next time, because the bands will make me feel my hammies a bit more than my upper back, or vice versa. I can do it with chains, off of pins. That will be the variance that I will put in my programming. But first, and that's what matters the most, is which exercise, how often. Because if I don't do the biceps so many times per week, they'll go backwards. But if they go backwards, it actually limits my shoulder tremendously. Like today, I'm going to take a day off. Why? Because my biceps are not recovered from yesterday. So I can feel it on the right, that is impacting my shoulder. So that puts me almost in freeze, and I'm like, shit, all right. So that's to tell you, like, the strength of the bicep is going up, but I probably need to incorporate more volume training, another exercise every day, because I feel like the quality of the muscle is low. I need to increase that. So the strength part is going to create the quality, but I need also a better muscle capacity in the term of when it comes to bicep and quantity. So I need to put more volume training, the pump, the making flush all the way to my shoulder. So all this connects better. But it seems like the biceps are such a problem that is damaging my structure. So yesterday, for example, I put like 130 kilos on the overhead yoke carry, which has been the most I've done in a long time. Why? Because the biceps are better, which makes my shoulder hustlets, it sets everything properly, it's easier to find my back, like things like that are finally progressing. It's better on the farmer's walk. But I think a lot of the exercises are limited by my biceps, except doing it twice a week bodybuilding work was not working. I need to do them 5 days a week, and I need to increase the volume now.
So then is the bicep what you call in this situation a low-hanging fruit?
Yeah, for example, yeah. And so I'll do it in after that, it's a matter of whether you do a compound movement on it or isolation. For example, should you do curls against the wall, or should you do concentration curls in isolation? And then that depends how badly disconnected from that muscle you are. If you really can't do work, then you go toward isolation.
Might be
if I do it too much, like you might use your forearm or whatever, then you have to start moving toward isolation. But first is we look at the pyramid, which muscles are damaging your structure. Then that's the one, and how often do I need to train them? And usually when you can't connect to it, then train them more often. You need to create a neural output to the muscle. You need to grind constantly for that muscle to learn to work. It's just teaching a reluctant kid. It's every day, it's like the calculation tables and everything. It's every day, an hour a day. So that's what I do with the biceps. And then as you are more connected to it, as they work better, you do them less and less and less, because you're upping the intensity. So I can do triceps recover better than biceps. So I can do both. I can do them together. And that's because the tricep recover so well, right? But for example, my hammies, they recover. They don't necessarily feel recovered the next day, but they need to be pushed. Otherwise, they just don't do anything. Someone else might not need that. Maybe if they were to do what I do with my hammies, they'd be sore for 2 days, and it wouldn't be interesting for them to do them 4 or 5 times a week. Maybe twice is enough. But it just happens that for me, they just won't grow otherwise. So I'm like, all right. So if you train a certain muscle group that you need, and you see that it's not responding. It's not that. Maybe even when it's sore, they just don't grow. They don't make progress. So like, all right, let's try to hit them Not too much, but on a more regular basis. Sometimes a muscle needs to be reminded to work more often than others.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Um,
So that's how I look at progression first, is that. It's like, how often does that muscle group need to be reminded to work? And then we go from there. And then which exercise is going to do that is the best reminder? That first, and we establish everything. And then from there, you decide exercises that can do more than one, upper back and hammies, stuff like that.
well, yeah, but looking at it like this, so hello. I think represents that balance between body as an object, body as a subject really well.
In a way, and
Because
like
it's all built on a subject.
For example,
but
you do
with
CrossFit, which means you're going to do thrusters
CrossFit.
all the time. Exactly. So what is it going to be? It's going to be it's going to be side delts that are growing. Your delts are going to grow. Your triceps are going to get stronger. And it's going to be a lot of quads, right? From doing thrusters all the time. All right. So eventually you're going to realize that by pushing your hips toward your ankles, your quads take a better load. You can go thrusters faster. By doing that, you limit the posterior chain engagement, which means at some point we need to work on those hammies, glutes, and biceps, for example, whatever is needed, right? And so at that stage, we're like, all right, are your hammies responding fast? Good. Then we do stiff leg once a week and we're cool. Are they not? Stiff leg twice a week? Stiff leg and lunges, stiff leg lunges and leg curl, and then we start to establish which exercise, and that's how we're going to program.
So, if you don't like this idea, you should just cut it out. But maybe it would be interesting to get like a test person, like a fake test person, and see how you would program for them as like a.
But that's what I'm doing on my on the group. Is like, let's have some test subject, fictitious or not, and how would I approach that?
Oh yeah, that might be cool for own class.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it's a practical application,
Yeah.
right?
Like maybe once.
But I think,
just cut it out if you
yeah, no. I like it, but this is a far more important aspect of training that we understand,
Well,
because
but
when they build a program, they build it the other way around. They go like, all right, let's build a squat. So squat has to be 10 weeks progression and assistance work, or we all need hammies. I build it the other way around.
Well, I also don't think it's possible to have such an objective program and then make it.
It can work for some people, but like an Ed Cohen made it work like that. But he's also built for powerlifting. He could take the training
But
like
I mean,
he's
then
just.
it's a very objective look at training, right? If you program.
But you can start there, right? And then after that, for what doesn't work, we start to see the way I do things.
Yeah.
Because I start
make
with the
knowledge.
idea that but I start with the idea that it won't work.
Mm-hmm.
Because somewhere it won't. We're not built. We built a specific way, and unless you're an Ed Cohen that is built for
But let's be
powerlifting
honest,
and started
if someone
early.
is super gifted, it almost not that it doesn't matter which programming,
Yeah.
but if someone is that gifted, they're gonna do well no matter what.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
And
We all have to agree to that.
Yep.
Like, if someone is just really talented, if they just do something, they will be really good. So it's not a really good base to program.
Like Ed Cohen had the same workout for 28 years. Like he had the deadlift into
That's
stiff leg,
crazy.
into bent over rows, into chin-ups. He did that every deadlift session, the same for 28 years straight. He's like, it works. That's not everybody, but
No, but that's
I think nobody is Ed
I
Cohen
love to hear
outside of
stories
Ed Cohen.
like
Yeah,
that too. But
28 years.
Can you imagine doing the same deadlift day for 28
Mhm.
years? That's to me is crazy.
And ended up being the greatest deadlifter of
but
all time. Yeah.
It's an amazing story, but I don't think it's, like you said, like a valid base to just do general programming on.
No, and plus he had his assistance work that he did also religiously and everything, so he knew what he needed to work
I
on.
love people that are that, I say that,
Structured, I guess.
structured, but
Yep.
also like sort of religious about their
Yep.
training. You know what I mean? Like they.
Oh yeah, he was.
So I always think that carries a certain.
Oh yeah, for sure.
certain
But he was the
strength.
greatest powerlifter ever, and maybe forever. Like it'll be very hard to beat what he did. Like he
Like
was world champion in at least 4 weight classes, if not 5. He started like skinny, like either 180 or 160, 168. I think he started. He ended up being 240. So like and 110 kilos. So he started at like whatever the class was, 78 or whatever, all the way to 110 kilos. Yeah.
You just
He's the
have
greatest
to
powerlifter of all time.
admire
Ed
people
Cohen.
that are.
But Ed Cohen has a linear progression that is online and that no one can finish. Yeah, he can do it, but like it's a 10 week, 12 weeks progression. You can't go past 8. If you go 9
But
and then you're done.
it's also what he was is already done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
No, but plus it was him.
no,
like,
but I mean, like, sometimes it's also cool to have an instinct for, like, I'm gonna do it my way completely differently, and that's gonna be my way. Like, I always.
it has to be.
Well,
To be good, it has to be that.
What I was so bothered by when I was a sprinter is that there's a really good sprinter in Holland. Her name is Daphne Schippers, and she's like a world champion, Olympic champion. And every time I said like I was a sprinter, people said, "Oh, you're gonna be the new Daphne Schippers," and it annoyed me. So I was like, "No, I'm gonna be the new Janina Verhaar," because that's.
Oops, sorry.
Oh.
No, that's okay.
iPhone storage is full.
It's okay. I still have mine, so I'll be able to. It's all good.
But that bothered me to the nth degree because I was like, she is already there. She's already great. I don't want to be her.
Yeah,
I want to be
me.
my version of a great sprinter. I want to be the new Janina, like not the new Daphne Schipper. She's already there. So I think everyone should, like, at least have that type of
because they
instinct
don't
for
understand
her.
greatness. That's why.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's our program for weakness, and then any other questions, bring them on so we can answer the next one.
And one last question: what do you think about the fact that
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
wearing a strong fit shirt?
Finally.
First
Well,
time.
so am I. So there you go.
First time on the podcast.
That is true. Matching.
Do you like it?
I like it. Bye, everybody.